Good evening, Facebook. It's kind of late right now, but I said that I was going to come on today and talk about beneficiaries. And so just because it's late here in Chicago, it doesn't stop anything. But somewhere it's a bright, sunshiny day. So we're going to keep moving forward. Do me a huge favor when you come in. Hey, Nancy, how are you? Do me a huge favor when you come in, like and share this video. Like and share this video for me. I'm going to invite some people real quick, see if they're still up. See if I'm not the only one that's here. I tend to do a lot of work at night, to be honest with you. I get up very, very early in the morning, but although I'm up, I'm not very productive. I'm not very productive in the morning at all. Never have been, really. I've always been a night owl where I would get up 11, 12 o'clock and at night and just work all through the morning and then go back to sleep 6, 7 a.m. And so I don't know what it is, but that's how I do things. And I just want to share this with some people real quickly. I'm going to try not to be too long because it is late. I think it's after 9 o'clock. Do me a favor, if you can hear me okay, send me some hearts, send me some thumbs up. Let me know that you can hear me okay. Because if not, I want to make sure we go ahead and take care of that right away because, as I stated, after I share this with a few people, I want to go ahead and jump right in, get this handled. Go ahead and take care of it real quickly. We're going to talk about beneficiaries today. One of the things that I found in my daily journey, going from client to client, is that people have questions about choosing beneficiaries. And we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about how you should be choosing your beneficiaries and why you've been choosing your beneficiaries all wrong. Okay, a lot of people feel, well, hey, that's my child or that's my loved one or whatever the case may be. And so that's what I'm going to put down. But we're going to talk about that a little bit. If you have any questions about beneficiaries, please do me a huge favor. Put those comments in the comment box for me. Put the comment in the comment box. Ask any questions you may have. I'll make sure I try to get to them tonight. If I can't answer them tonight, I'll be sure to post that information for you in the group. In the comments for tomorrow so that all can see and be equally enlightened. Okay. All right, so I see I got quite a few people on here. Good evening, everybody who's joined me. Good evening and evening. So like I said, we're going to talk about beneficiaries today. My phone went dead in the middle of talking with a client who's also a very good friend. My phone went dead on me. So, nowadays this technology, without it, you're just done with, right? So earlier in the day, I posted a huge piece of craft paper on my bedroom wall because I've had some things that I've been trying to get out of my head and into execution. So while I had that downtime from technology, I went in my bedroom and I just began to mind dump right there on the wall. If anybody here is familiar with that, I'm sure you understand that's a great way of getting your ideas out of your head and onto the paper and actually into some execution. If you're not familiar with that, feel free to ask me about that and I'll tell you, how you get it done. But anyway, Without further ado, for those of you who are tuning in who are not aware of who I am, you're here for the first time. My name is Dorinda Monique Klink. I am an income protection specialist. I help individuals to identify areas of financial risk exposure, helping them to put strategies in place to protect their income, their assets, their businesses, and most importantly, the people they love, their family. Subsequently, creating some generational wealth, leaving behind some legacies, and helping them to create an emergency fund and a retirement plan that they worked hard for and definitely deserve. I also teach a financial literacy program that teaches individuals how to recognize, eliminate, or reduce their poor spending habits. So with that being said, here we are today. I think it's Tuesday. You know, since I've been off, I can't really remember what day it is. I don't know. I think it's Tuesday. For those of you who were on with me yesterday and the delivery guy rang the bell, so I have my t-shirt. Well, I have my sweatshirt on today. Everything is my I caught that on impact theory. I believe that thoroughly because, you know, a lot of times things happen to us and we blame other people, but the things that happen to us, now, let's be clear. We're not talking about heinous crimes and things like that. We're not talking about that, but we're talking about circumstances that are definitely within our control. The results of that, whether it be good or bad, is definitely our fault. We have to choose wisely. We have to think about our actions before we make the move and think about the end result. Okay, so we absolutely do have the ability to change the situation just if we take a moment to think it through. So with that being said, let's talk about beneficiaries. Let's get in this. So for the last couple of days, I've been talking about insurance, a topic that I didn't really expect to move into. You know, someone asked a couple of questions, and so here we are, right? So today we are going to talk about beneficiaries. Yesterday we talked about what insurance is. I'm not going to recap that. If you're interested in that, feel free to go back, look through my profile. My account is open. Go ahead and find that video. Today we're going to talk about beneficiaries, and then we're going to move forward. So this is an interesting topic because when I sit down with people on a daily basis and we write up insurance policies and things like that, and we get to that beneficiary portion, there's a long pause, right? A lot of times people just pause because now they have to really, really, truly think about who their beneficiary is. And the first people that come to mind for an individual is usually their children. They think about their children. You know, if there are no children, they think about, you know, their siblings, their parents, things of that nature. But I'm going to tell you right now, you're thinking all wrong. And here's why you're thinking all wrong. Because, you know, I've had the opportunity to sit down with some people who may be lower income bracket and can only afford, let's say, maybe $5,000, $7,000, $10,000, may have 3, 4 more children. And when I ask them, well, who are your beneficiaries? They will give me a whole list of names. They'll name, you know, every single child, whether it's 5, 7, 10, or 12. They'll give me every single child. Now, the average funeral expenses in the U.S. is $17,000. Here in the Chicagoland area, on the low end, it's about 9, and the higher end, it's about 12. So if you only have $5,000 to $7,000 worth of life insurance and you have, let's say, 7 children, now what you've done is you've broken up that death benefit 7 ways, leaving each of them $1,000. However, how do you get buried? If you've left everybody every single dime of this life insurance, who buries you? Now, I know someone out there is saying, well, the kids, right? Nah. Because see, here's what happened. You have 7 children, and I'm gonna be real brutally honest. You got 7 children, probably one of them is completely dead broke, has nothing, right? So they're gonna pay some bills. You got 1 or 2 that's addicted to something. You got 1 that's probably real super selfish, don't want to do nothing, right? I mean, I can go on and on, but I can guarantee you are not going to get a death benefit out of $7,000 and 7 children listed as a beneficiary. Because when you take out life insurance, your first means is to make sure you get buried. That's your first thing. You want to first take out the chunk of money that is required to make certain that you get the burial and the memorial service that you desire, right? If you are looking to cremation versus burial, and we'll talk about that at another time. If you want cremation versus burial, understand that the pricing on that, the price tag on that is different, but either way, you still have to take out that chunk of money, set it to the side, and then what's left you can distribute accordingly. Okay, but you can't go and put 7 beneficiaries down on a life insurance policy. You only have $7,000, and in Chicago it costs you about 10 to bury you. You already $3,000 in the hole from the start. Okay, hope you fine. Hey, Margot. Yes, I'm doing much better. Thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, I see some new faces here. I see Richard and Michelle and D-Ice and Terry, Michael Taylor, and my cousin Vincent, and a few other people. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. So, and then old Mike Lowry. Hey, Mike. And so, again, like I said, you can't have $7,000 worth of life insurance. You have 7, or even 5 beneficiaries listed, and then you expect to split that, equally, but yet you're already starting off with $3,000 in the hole. And then once you start distributing this money, you have nothing left remaining to bury you. Okay. So let's talk about what should be done. Okay. And I have a list of about 10 things. And hopefully I can get through all of them. If you got any questions, feel free to put your questions in the comments. Hopefully I can get through all of them, but I definitely want to make sure I want to touch on the ones that are most important, that I need you to really focus on when it comes down to choosing the proper beneficiary on your life insurance policy, because it means a world of difference. It really does, because some major things can happen if you don't have people listed properly. And we're going to talk about those. So for those of you who have minor children, such as myself, and I'm sure there's a couple more of you on there. If you have a minor child, don't put your minor child as a beneficiary. Don't put your minor child on a beneficiary unless you have a trust in place. Because what's going to happen is that if you have a life insurance policy, you put your minor child down as the beneficiary, at the time of your death, that claim gets put in and that money gets locked, because the insurance company is not going to distribute that money to a minor. Okay, it's going to be locked. And in the event that it is left to a minor, now the insurance company is not going to distribute it to the minor. You have 2 problems going on here. Number one, your family has no money in which to lay you to rest. Okay, so that means the whole purpose of the life insurance, which was to make sure that there was a burial fund available, is no longer available because it's locked tight. You left your minor child as a beneficiary, didn't have a contingent, didn't have a trust fund in place. Okay, the court system can, appoint a guardian. And what's going to happen there is that they're going to eat away a lot of that insurance policy in administrative fees. Right? You only need one person to put create a T account. I'm an accountant, so it only takes one person to put a T account and, write down some administration. It don't take thousands of dollars, but that's what they're going to take. Trust and believe. Guardians and probate will eat away all of your money. Trust me. So you need to do things properly in the beginning to save yourself in the end. Guarantee. Okay. So, you want to, if you have a best friend or a sibling or a family member that you can depend on, and I mean fully depend on, where you can give them full directions and then know without a shadow of a doubt that if you pass away, and your child is still a minor, you can leave that person as the beneficiary, and they're going to carry out your order as requested to make certain that child gets that money distributed however you've left word for. Otherwise you just don't end up in with an issue, because if they put a guardian on top of that, your child won't see that till they're about 18 or 21. you may not even want them to have it at 18 or 21 because they may still be irresponsible. You may want it to be 25, 30. But the bottom line is because you put that minor as a beneficiary, the courts is going to decide how that's handled unless you have an insurance company that keeps that in an account for the child until they reach the age of majority. Okay. If you have any questions, please, just go ahead, put the questions in the comment box. I'll go ahead and make sure I get them answers, get those answered for you. But I want to make sure that you're doing the right thing when it comes down to life insurance policies. Because when I sit down with people every single day, one thing I find out is that a lot of us, and when I say us, I'm speaking of African Americans mostly, but trust me, we are not the only ones who are ignorant to the fact, and maybe I shouldn't say ignorant because somebody might get offended, but we're not the only ones who are not very well educated when it comes down to insurance and the purposes for it and how to really do it, right? What's it for and how it's, situated. But it's something, hey Doris, but it's something that we all must need. And so I want all of us to move forward educated in life insurance because it's too many people right now without it, and we're without it because we don't know. And unfortunately, we don't know what we don't know until somebody sits in front of us and starts spitting out some education, and you're like, oh, wow, I had no clue. So I'm hopefully, my goal is to be that person, be that bit of information for you so you no longer have to go blind in the world or even without life insurance for your family. Okay, so the first thing, like I said, you don't want to name a minor child, and unfortunately I won't be able to go back tonight. It's late and I don't want to hold people too long. The second thing you don't want to do, the second mistake, is making a dependent who has special needs ineligible for government benefits. Now let me explain what I mean by that. So let's say you have a child who is not necessarily a minor, but a child who has special needs, okay? What you don't, now, if the child has special needs, they've already received some government benefits. They probably have Medicare, they probably have Medicaid, and so on and so forth, because the cost of their care may be quite expensive, right? And so you don't want to list that child as a beneficiary, because what will happen is now that they've gotten this lump sum of cash, Medicaid has a limit on what you can earn or what you can have as an asset before you no longer qualify. So if you leave a life insurance policy and you name that special needs child as the beneficiary, what now happens is that Medicaid will cut that child's benefits off, and they may need those benefits for care. So now you've put them in a position where they have this life insurance benefit, and that benefit is now being utilized for their care. So even though you may have wanted them to do whatever with it, do something great, I don't know, you may have wanted it to be used towards their care, but I'm not sure you did not want it to be sucked away in, let's say, medical bills and different things like that. You may have wanted to use it for their comfortability, but because you've given them a lump sum of cash, Medicaid can now rescind their government benefits and maybe even ask them to repay some things that Medicaid has paid out. So you've actually put them in a situation, a bad situation, versus putting them in a good situation. So you want to make sure you talk to somebody like an estate planning attorney who can really advise you on how to set up a special needs trust for that child, because you don't want to leave your special needs child in a position where they were worse off than when they started. Okay. So number 3, let's talk about spouses. I know this is a huge one that I get a lot, right? Do I have to put my spouse down as my beneficiary? Do I? Well, the answer to that, if you're in Illinois, no. But seeing how this is a live broadcast on Facebook, some of you are not from Illinois and you may live in a community property state. In Illinois, you can list whoever you want to list as a beneficiary. And you may have a will that says, something different, but A will does not trump a life insurance policy. Let me be clear with that now. Whatever is on the life insurance policy goes on the life insurance policy. You can say that, you know, yesterday I put a post up, something about, you know, just because there's bad times doesn't mean you're not supposed to be loyal or something like that. And I saw that on somebody's page after I had already had this thought, right? And so what happens, I was having this thought, like, how am I going to bring this to people? So let's say you're married and you and your spouse separate, and you've been separate, and I've seen this happen. You separated and you've been separated for 20, 25, 30 years. Both of you are living completely separate lives, right? But you're still married. One of the spouses died. One of the people died, okay? And then all of a sudden now the kids are upset. And the comment I hear all the time is, his girlfriend got all the money. She took the insurance. Let me share something with you. When you have life insurance, when you purchase life insurance and you are the owner, you have the control to put whoever you want as the beneficiary. Can't nobody take anything. That just does not happen. So if the girlfriend got the bag, it's because daddy made girlfriend the beneficiary. Now, some of y'all finna get real upset. As the wife, you can't be mad because he bought that insurance. He's the owner and he can do what he wants. But hey, sis, hey, Yolanda, good to see you. Hey, Daryl, hey, twin. So here's where you're going to get upset. So as the wife, you may be feeling some kind of way because you feel like, hey, you know, well, he didn't leave me nothing. All I can say is when the situation gets rough in a marriage, take a moment to think about why you got married. And you better fix it. Because if you don't fix it, and there's life insurance in place, the owner has the right to change the beneficiary to whomever they desire. So I don't care if you've been married 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, 35, 70. If that person dies and the girlfriend gets the bag, shame on you. Big come up for the girlfriend. That's all I can really say. Now, I've been in situations where I've sat with a husband and wife, both had insurance policies, and just as we finished signing the paper, the wife got up to go to the back of the room or whatever. He pulls me to the side and he say, hey, holler at me later. I want to buy another policy. I get it a lot, more often than I probably should, but I know exactly what was, you know, what the plan is. They got a little sad piece, you know, and for those of you who thought I was just super educated and, you know, real political and all that, I grew up in the hood. So every now and then I'm gonna get a little hood. So anyway, he has a side piece and he's trying to get another policy so that his side piece is straight if he die. Okay. Can't be mad at him. He do what he want to do. That's his money. He's the owner of the policy, right? And don't think women don't do the same thing. Okay. So bottom line is, children, don't get upset because your daddy died or your mama died and the other person that they were seeing got the money. You can't be mad at that girlfriend or you can't be mad at that boyfriend. The point is that you need to be mad at your parents because your parents chose not to stay together for whatever reason. And because of that, their insurance was distributed the way they chose to distribute it. They may have given it to the girlfriend. The girlfriend may have had a kid with the guy out of wedlock. Now her and her kids is living a good life and you sitting here in slum. That's your mom and daddy's fault. Don't blame the girlfriend. Daddy did what he felt he wanted to do in the story. Now, I'm going to tell you, being real, 9 times out of 10, girlfriend ain't going to pay for that funeral either. And this is exactly why on yesterday, I shared with you all that if you got kids with somebody, you better get that life insurance on them because the girlfriend ain't going to pay for that burial process. if you're still married, they're gonna be like, you got a wife. He got a wife. She got to pay for that. And it's up to the wife to decide to do what she gonna do. You know, whether she do it or not is up to her. But this, I'm just telling you how it goes down, and I see it every single day. Now, if you live in a community property state, if you put down a girlfriend or somebody else, the neighbor or whatever, in a community property state, the law may come in and say, nope, the spouse gets it. You know, I don't live in a community property state. I'm not an estate planner. So you may want to talk to an attorney about all of that. Talk to an attorney who specializes in estate law, and they can definitely give you a better idea of how that whole process works. But just be mindful. If you're gonna say I do, be loyal all the way to the end. Meaning, hey, if y'all got this little issue going on, y'all better go to separate bedrooms, hash it out in the morning, work it out. Because when y'all start separating and y'all start letting other people into your relationship, we're not just talking about who you sleeping with. We're talking about assets, and everything start getting split, some under the cover, and somebody gonna be real hurt in the morning, I guarantee you. So be mindful of that. You know, it's not just about your personal issue. Yes, Yolanda, knowledge is power. And I'm out here, I want to make sure that we're educated about life insurance, because far too many of us don't have life insurance, and we don't have life insurance because we don't have the knowledge, and we don't ask questions because we don't know what we don't know. So I want to just share, some information and enlighten some people, so now they can at least be a little more knowledgeable as they approach this thing called life insurance, because I don't want to continue to see, so many people without life insurance. Right now, there's more than 95 million people in the world without life insurance. 70% of those people are people of color. Okay, so it's just far too many people out here who do not have life insurance. There are people who have life insurance on their jobs, but I guarantee you, those jobs are not loyal. You can be gone tomorrow, and when you're gone tomorrow, so are your benefits. A few city workers still get, life insurance that can walk with them, but when a company say you fired, they quit you completely. They taking everything, the kids, the car, the dog. So when they let you go, all of your benefits leave as well. So for those of you who always say, well, I got insurance on my job, your job will not keep you when things get tough, when they pull them reports, when they pull them income statements and so on, and the bottom line ain't right. They're going to decide they're going to let you go, and they're going to take your benefits right along with it. And like I mentioned on yesterday, if at this point you've gotten older, you've gotten ill in your body, the cost is going to be a lot more expensive, and you put your family in a position where they may be in debt trying to bury you. So be mindful of that. If you have insurance through your job, make sure you also get at least a small policy, if nothing else, at least a $10,000 to $15,000 policy. That way you still have that in place in the event that your job lets you go and you have nothing left. As far as benefits, at least that way you have something under the pillow that can make sure your family can bury you. Okay, absolutely, yeah, absolutely, Yolanda, absolutely. Gone here today, gone tomorrow. So number 4, you don't want to fall into a tax trap. Okay, so yesterday. And for those of you who are just joining me today and didn't catch that broadcast on yesterday, I need you to catch that broadcast. Once I'm done talking about insurance altogether, I'm going to put it in the watch party so you can feel free to take a look at it, at all of it. Okay, not a problem, Yolanda. I think you got my number. Just give me a call, or I'll reach out to you in the morning. What you want to do is you don't want to fall into a trap. And so yesterday I gave an example of the owner, the beneficiary, and the insured. And so you can fall into a tax trap. So the example I gave was, I'm the owner of my mother's life insurance and my daughter is the beneficiary. That's not true, but this is the example that I gave. So what can happen is, if my mother were to pass away, my daughter receives the death benefit, but what happens is that it becomes taxable to me, because life insurance is most times non-taxable to the owner of the policy, the policy holder. But if the policy holder is naming someone else, a third party, as a beneficiary, now what they've done is they've gifted that money to someone else. And so the one with the gift gets away with it free, but the one who's the giver has to pay now a gift tax. Okay, so you got to be real careful of how you put down them beneficiaries, because what was once tax-free can now become a taxable event. And if you give, let's say the policy is $100,000, and so let's say my daughter makes $30,000, and let's say my mom passed away, I put my daughter as a beneficiary. Now I just put her in a position where, well, not her, but I put myself in a position, let's say I make $30,000. So now I put myself in this position where the $100,000 becomes taxable. So now I have $130,000 in taxable income for that particular year versus 30. So I went from a zero tax bracket to a tax bracket that I can't afford. And so now I'll go from getting tax credits and everything from the government, from the IRS, to now I'll probably be paying back taxes to the government for something that I didn't even physically benefit from, because the money went with my daughter, not me, but I gave it, and now it just picked up some gift tax. Because see, legally you can gift money. I think it's $15,000 now. Some years it was 10, but I think you can gift $15,000 per year without it being taxable. But now if I'm dropping $100,000 into somebody's lap because they're the third party on the policy, now I just created a taxable event, and you wiped away completely the whole purpose of having life insurance. Well, not the whole purpose, but one of the benefits of having life insurance is that it's non-taxable. It bypasses taxes, it bypasses creditors, and it bypasses probate. So it's really, if you do it right, it's invisible money, right? It's an invisible come up that nobody ever notices. But when you throw that third party in there, if I'm the owner, my mom's the insured, and my daughter's the beneficiary, she gets away with the bag scot-free. I end up with a gift tax situation that I probably cannot afford. And I'll probably be knocking on her door like, look, let me get some of that back. And these kids like, I about hell weave with it. It's gone, mom. You're just done, right? Hey, Torn. Hey, Rosemary, good to see you. Carmen Johnson, good. Thanks for joining us. Let's see. We talked about wills, but we'll talk about this again. So number 5 is, assuming that your will, another mistake is that you'll assume that your will trump your life insurance policy, and it does not. In your will, you can list how you want that life insurance to be utilized, especially like in the case of a minor, you've put an executor in place and you want that person to, okay, I want you to give him $1,000 for every birthday. And every month I want you to get him, $300 monthly until they reach this age. And at this age or at graduation, I want you to give them $5,000 and, do this every year until they reach, let's say, 30 years old. Okay. You can list those type of things in the will, but in a will, if I put down, in my will, in my life insurance, if I say, I want to give, let's say my boo, I want to give my boo $100,000 and I got 2 kids, they can go to probate court all they want, and they're gonna be like, but she's the owner. She can send her money, give her money to whoever. You can't contest a life insurance policy. It just doesn't work that way. Only if it's about spouses and you're in a community property state. I mentioned that earlier, but again, because I don't live in a community property state, I don't come across that, so I'm not very familiar. If you need more information about that, you'll definitely have to talk to an estate attorney, estate planning attorney. The closest place near me that is a community property state, I think, is Iowa. I didn't even jot it down. I don't even know. But community property states, we have Arizona, California. I think the closest to me is Wisconsin. But again, if you need more information about that, talk to an estate planning attorney, or you know, go to Google University. It'll pull it up for you, you know. But you want to make sure you pay very close attention to them. Number 6, I get this all the time. Oh my God, I get this so much, it's almost scary. I met with a lady the other day, and she first was like, you know, I'm straight, I'm good, I'm straight. I said, ma'am, you know, when was the last time you sat down with your agent? She says, well, I don't know, I don't even remember her name. I said, well, you know what, she's no longer with the company, but look, you need to go ahead and meet with someone. Your policy was taken out in 2012. Last time you sat with somebody is 2017. This is 2019. We really need to go over your policy. She finally allowed me to come over, and I sat down with her, and we went through the policy. She said, well, you know what? That's not my daughter's last name anymore. I want to change that. Not a problem. What I saw on her policy was she had a name, we'll call him John, and it said spouse. Now, the conversation we had already had previously, she told me that her husband passed away a couple of years ago. So why is he still the beneficiary, right? Now, what happens if she had passed away before I got there, and John, the spouse, is the beneficiary now, and there's no contingent beneficiary listed? What happens is that that life insurance death benefit goes into probate. It goes to the estate, and the estate goes to probate. They're not going to start searching for the next heir. They're not going to do that. This is not a will. They're not going to do that. It's going to become property of the estate, and the estate is going to go into probate because you did not update your life insurance. You need to update your life insurance every time you date somebody, every time you have a baby, every time someone passes away. And my rule of thumb is this: if you change your smoke detector battery at the beginning of the year and at the beginning of spring or the beginning of summer, then make sure you're also pulling out your life insurance policy at the beginning of the year. After all them holidays, you know, them family holidays, look at that life insurance. Spring and summer come around, when you got that spring cleaning, look at your life insurance policy, because things change. Life happens. Life has a way of changing and throwing us a curveball when we least expect it. And when it does, it drops things on us that we sometimes don't understand, and we can't remember other things behind the scene. And so all of a sudden, you know, you have a catastrophe in 2013, and you looked up and it's 2020. 7 whole years in the past, you had 3 brand new grandkids, you've lost a child, you've, you know, gained a daughter-in-law, the whole 9 yards. Everything has changed. Your whole life just, you know, just looks different than it did 7 years prior, but your life insurance policy stays the same. And you don't want that to happen, because you definitely do not want for your life insurance policy to be caught up in a probate situation because you failed to update your life insurance. Another thing, when you get divorced, Lord Jesus, when you get divorced, you have to do your utmost due diligence and look at them policies, because here's what happens. Let's say you get divorced, okay? You got John and Julie, okay? John and Julie was married. John and Julie breaks up. Julie gets remarried and has more kids with her new boo, okay? Didn't change the beneficiaries. So now, when she passes away, depending upon how, you know, the beneficiaries are listed, John, you know, her new boo, his kids can get some of that too, because he's the spouse. And let's say he turns around and dies too. Well, now his kids get all of his stuff. So his kids are benefiting from money that you left and you meant it for your children, but you failed to change your, you know, life insurance policy for it to reflect the way it should. Or another scenario is that you're the spouse, you're the woman, and the husband, the ex-husband, goes and gets remarried, and you still have him listed as a beneficiary, and then now his new wife benefits from the money that you had intended to leave for your husband at the time and your kids, but he's no longer your husband, and you didn't put the kids, you didn't switch it out, so now your ex-husband and his wife is benefiting, right? I don't know about you, but I ain't trying to fund nobody's boo. I really ain't. I don't roll like that. You get your own, right? So you got to make sure that you're paying attention to what you got on them papers, and you need to be checking it every year. Definitely every 2 years. Anything more than that is ludicrous. So when somebody calls you, especially if you have life insurance already, and somebody calls you and they says, hey, just calling to do an annual review, or just calling to come in, go over your policy. Don't get nasty. I have a lot of people that say, I ain't trying to buy nothing else. Okay, fine, then don't buy nothing else. But I'm trying to save you. I'm trying to help you out with this hardship. So with the lady who I sat down with, had we not sat down then and she had a dime, her money would have went straight to the estate, and from the estate to probate. And this lady has 4 children. Her children would have been irate, because what you cannot change is what's on that life insurance policy or what's not on the life insurance policy. Okay, so be mindful of that. So make sure you want to change stuff when when the picture change every year. The picture is changing. Grandkids, all that. Change your beneficiaries and the amount that you're leaving them. Okay, because you may decide you want to, let's say, you get a life insurance policy. I'll use myself, for example. So, my life insurance policy, I have 2 children. When my children were minors, they were 50-50, right? After my mom, of course, they were 50-50 as contingents. When my daughter became an adult and she started having children, I dropped her down real far to like 10%, because now I got grandkids. She can fend for herself. They can't. So now she get the 10, my minor kid get the 50, and then her 2 kids, they split 40. Her household gets that, you know what I'm saying? But for her, now she's gonna have to deal with that 10, and that the rest of that is gonna have to stay in the trust until my grandsons can fend for themselves. Now she turn around and add another kid, then we're gonna we're gonna look at that, we're gonna rearrange that a little differently. But I need you to make sure that you are reviewing your insurance policies on a regular basis, because you don't want to be paying a premium every month so that certain things could happen and then you die and it doesn't happen the way you want it. Of course, you won't know, you won't be affected, but the people you leave behind will. So it's very important that you must keep reviewing and updating your insurance policies, on a regular basis. Okay, so that's number 6. We winding down, y'all. All right, so number 7. Years ago, this was a good one. People would say, so number 7 is you don't want to neglect details. You want to make sure you put good details in there. So, hey, Carolyn. So when it comes down to details, years ago, people would say, oh, well, just put, all of my children, right? When it comes to beneficiary, you just say all of my children split equally, right? And so, yeah, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. That doesn't, you really want to name them. Because again, in the instance of, when another person is involved, a new spouse and things like that, you start saying all of my children, then your stepchildren, they gonna get a part because they're your child too, legally at this point. So you really want to be specific. You want to put full names. You want to put birthdays if you have them. You want to make sure you put social security numbers. You want to put addresses. You want to put as much detailed information as possible, because you don't want there to be a mistaken identity, and you definitely want to make sure that it goes to who you intended it to go to. So you don't want to leave things out, such as that, and you don't want to list it as all of my children, divided equally. You want to be specific. Otherwise, sometimes an insurance company may decide to, do a search for, these children that you say all of my children. And, that's just a lot of time and that's a lot of money, so just save everybody some drama and some trauma, and list that down as, giving as much detail as possible. You also want to decide whether or not and here's 2 terms you may not have heard. So you also want to make sure that you're either listing them as per capita or per stirpes. And I tell you what, I'm gonna share my screen with you guys real quick. Let me see if I can figure out how to do this, so you'll get an understanding. Because one, and I can't ever remember which one. I ain't perfect. I know there's somehow. I know I can share a screen. I just can't figure out how I do it right now. So we can't do that. So one says that, okay, if when you die, all of your children will get an equal portion. And then if one of your children passes away, the grandchildren gets nothing. The two remaining children will split 50-50. And then the other way, and I'm saying it like that because I can never remember which is which. I have to see it. And then the other way is you have 3 children. If one dies, then their children gets it. So let's say you get 3 children, 33%, but then one child passes away. And so now that person's children or your grandchildren divides that child's portion, and the other 2 children still gets their 30, their 1/3. Let's see, somebody just left me a comment. Hopefully it's one of my attorney's friends. Oh, hey, Glory. Hey, TT. Good to have you. So, like I said, I can never remember which one is which. One means per head, one means per branch. I think per capita is head, and I think stirpes is branch. But anyway, I never said I was a genius, right? I never said I was a superstar, super smart. But y'all can look it up. I'll post it in the comments when I pull it up. I'll put the picture and I'll post it in the comments so that you can have that. I think that'll be sufficient. So number 8, the number 8 mistake is that you don't tell anybody. You get life insurance and then you put it in the safe deposit box, or you put it in the safe, you put it in the shoebox under the bed, and you don't tell anybody, so that when you pass away, nobody knows whether or not mom or dad has insurance, right? Nobody knows if there's insurance there. So a lot of times, if the insurance company don't know who to reach out for, well, first of all, the insurance company is not going to know that the person is deceased unless there's a claim made. And there can't be a claim made unless someone knew that a life insurance policy existed. So a lot of times people will die and there's money sitting there that was supposed to be distributed to beneficiaries, but because a claim wasn't made, the insurance company is just sitting on this money, and it's just unapplied funds. So the parent has been paying for insurance that now the family can't benefit for because you didn't tell anybody. Now, a lot of people say, well, I ain't gonna tell nobody because, they probably try to kill me off. It ain't that serious. It really ain't that serious. Jokes don't fit well in the life of insurance. It really doesn't. Jokes don't fit well. Ain't nobody trying to, bump you off. This is about being diligent, and this is about making certain that everybody knows what part they play. So you want to make certain that somebody knows that you have life insurance and you know where it is. Don't put it in the safe deposit box if you're the only one with the key. Don't put it in a mattress, under a mattress, in a box or whatever, and nobody is going to think to look at it. You need to tell a trusted friend. You need to have an attorney on hand, or you need to have somebody in place who knows that there's a life insurance policy. Now, nowadays, a lot of companies will allow you to do online, transactions and stuff like that. You can get your policy online, which is the company I work for. We have an online way for people to link their accounts and put all of their life insurance policies right there, and they can see it right online. And so a lot of times what I'll tell a person is, look, when the policy comes, we're going to go and review it. And then what I need you to do is I need you to give it to your beneficiary. The one that you feel is the most responsible, I need you to give it to the beneficiary. If you're technologically advanced, you got a computer at home, I need you to go online and upload that policy, and you can view it and make changes right there. The person that you have to safeguard it, they can't do anything to the policy. They can't call an insurance company and make any changes. They can't change beneficiaries or anything because they have to show identification. And you know, they have to prove who they are before they can make a change. And they're not the owner, so they can't change anything. So what do you have to lose? Absolutely nothing. So you need to let somebody know, because in a safe deposit box or in a safe in your closet or underneath the bed is not the right place, because when you pass away, your family needs to know exactly who to call in order to get the ball rolling. Okay, otherwise you'll have your family members panicking because now they got to figure out how they got to get, you know, where they're going to get these funds to bury you. They'll be on GoFundMe asking people to, you know, to help pay for this burial, and there's $100,000 policy sitting there that they've paid for, you know, year after year, year after year. That's just going to waste because it's sitting in the insurance company's possession, because they don't know who to call, because they don't know that you're dead. Okay, so being quiet about it does nothing for anybody. It doesn't serve anybody. Now, one thing that you can do, I don't know about other companies, but the company I'm with, one thing that we do is that we will get permission from you to actually contact your beneficiary. And when we contact that beneficiary, we don't tell them, okay, you know, this person has X amount of dollars, or this person have this health issue. No, that's not their business. That's between you and the beneficiary. All we're coming to do is say, you know, someone thought highly enough about you to list you as a beneficiary because they felt that you were responsible enough to carry out their wishes. And so we wanted to make certain that you were aware of that. And here's my contact information directly, and here's the information for the insurance company if and when the claim needs to be filed. End of story. They don't need to know anything else. It's not their place, nor is it their business, but they do need to know that there's a life insurance policy out there, and they need to know the company so that they can make plans. Now, one thing that really irritates me, and I'm gonna tell you, it irritates me to death, is when I call somebody and they'll say, oh, I already have life insurance. I say, wonderful. Who do you have your insurance with? Dead silence. I don't know. Why don't you know who you have your life insurance with? If I ask you, wow, you know, that's a nice pair of shoes you got, where you get them? You can spit that out real quick, but you can't tell me where your life insurance is. Why don't you know where your life insurance is held? To me, that just makes absolutely no sense. Who pays out money week month after month, year after year, to an invisible person that they don't even know where it's going? You should know who your life insurance is being held by. You have to know who your life insurance is being held by, because if you don't, that's a problem. If you don't know who your insurance policy is with, that lets me know two things. Number one, you don't value it. And number two, the person that sat with you did not educate you properly in order to give you value. So if you don't have, if you're not educated, you can't get it, you know, gain any value from it. Therefore, you're going to look at it as a piece of paper, and you're going to say, oh yeah, I got insurance. And you're going to toss it to the side. You're not going to ever look at it again. And then all of a sudden you're going to die, and your family is not going to know where it is or who it's with. And that helps no one. So I need you to be thoroughly educated. And I'm hoping, hey, Nancy, I hope I'm really helping somebody, because I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of sitting with people and they don't know this stuff, and they have to know this stuff. This is serious business. If you were having a baby, you know your due date, you know your doctor's name, you know your the date that they say it could be 2 weeks before or 2 weeks after. You know them dates. You done picked out 5 names. You done bought, you know, a paint color for the bedroom. You got all of these things in place. You done told everybody about it. You got a baby shower, the whole 9 yards. But when it comes to life insurance, you know, it's mom's the word. You don't know nothing, and nobody else knows either. So now you're just stuck. Okay, now you're really stuck, and that's sad because life insurance is for the benefit of your family so they can take care of your final wishes, and then also to leave behind a legacy if that's your desire. Okay, and so when you don't know who's it with, it just stays with the life insurance company, and the plan that you had in place really falls short. Okay, so number nine mistake is giving money without strings. What that means is this: you don't ever want to leave money for a child without some stipulations. If I was let's say if I was 18, 19 years old and you left me 100,000, 50,000, it could have been $1,000 life insurance policy. Oh boy, my shoe game was already on point when I was 18, 19 years old, because I worked in corporate. I started working in corporate America early. So I was always dressed business-like. I was always dressed more mature than my counterparts, than my peers, because my mom and my grandma were always classy women, and they showed me how to dress early, very young. So, I'm wearing snakeskin pumps. I wore hats to church. I was all that in a bag of chips. So you leave me, a 21-year-old or an 18-year-old, with a check? Jesus Christ. Shut down the mall. Dorinda is on the way. You need to make sure that you put some stipulations in place when you're leaving large sums of money to your children. If need be, put it in trust and have an executor, a trustee, distribute those funds according to your wishes. Otherwise, you just got kids blowing money, and then they end up broker than they were before you died. And I'm sure that's not your plan. So you got to make sure you put some stipulations on that. All right. Number 10, you want to don't make a mistake of not naming a primary beneficiary. Okay. Don't make a mistake of not naming a primary beneficiary. Here's why. And this happens sometimes when I sit with people, because I can't force a person to do anything. I can impress upon them what they should do, but I can't make them do anything. But I'll have sometimes people say, well, I just put a beneficiary later because I can't think of nobody. Wrong. Or they have children and say, well, I don't know which one, let me talk to them first. I'll just do it later. Wrong. Tomorrow is not promised. You can die 5 minutes after I walk out of your house. Tomorrow is not promised. So when you die and don't have a primary beneficiary listed, just like I mentioned earlier, that money goes to your estate. Your estate goes into probate, and the courts determine how it gets distributed. It may get distributed into the hands of someone you don't want it to be, but most importantly, most of that money gets dissected by the courts, and only a fraction remains to be distributed. And I'm sure that is not the plan you had for your insurance when you sat down and did that life insurance policy. Another thing, we didn't talk about this though, but there's primary beneficiaries and then there's contingent beneficiaries. Now, the same lady I sat with who noticed, we noticed that her husband, her deceased husband, was still listed. She had a second policy where she had one daughter listed as the primary and another daughter listed as the contingent. And she says, well, this policy right here is for my two daughters for them to split. No, it doesn't split. What happens if she passes away, the daughter that's listed as primary gets the whole bag, the entire bag. Now, the second daughter, when she sees her name on that policy, she's going to be upset and going to be like, well, my cut. Well, you don't have a cut because you're the primary. The other sister was the primary beneficiary. A contingent beneficiary comes into play when the primary beneficiary predeceases the insured. When the primary beneficiary predeceases the insured and you haven't updated your life insurance, now the contingent beneficiary They're the second in command. They're the second in line. Now they take the place of the primary, and they're the one that gets the death benefit. I need you to understand that. So not only did I have to go in and take the husband off, who's now deceased, I had to also switch the contingent beneficiary, that second daughter, and make her equal as a primary and split that entire policy between the two. Now, at the time, she couldn't figure out who she wanted to list as a contingent, because in the event that both of those girls, let's say they passed away in a car accident, and it happens, right? A few years ago, a whole family, was met with turmoil, and so it happens. But let's say the two daughters were injured in a car crash and died, and she doesn't have a contingent listed, then now she's got to figure out what she's going to do. And like most people, they don't update. Now that lady's going to pass away sometime down the line. That money's going to go to the estate. The estate's going to go to the probate. And now here we got the same situation. So you want to make sure that you understand the difference between a primary beneficiary and a contingent beneficiary. Understand that the roles that they play on a life insurance policy, and make sure that you're putting people in place that are not just, this is my kid, I'm putting them there. You want to make sure you're putting responsible individuals. So here's a bonus, right? Here's a bonus. When choosing a beneficiary, don't try to go and put all in your, matter of fact, I'm gonna give you two bonuses. So number 11, when you're choosing a beneficiary, don't try to go and choose, put everybody down. I'm gonna put down all my kids. I'm gonna put down the little boy next door. He always shovel my snow. I'm gonna put down my auntie. I'm gonna put down my pastor. You can't do all that. All you need, and it really depends on how much you have available. So again, if you're living somewhere and the average cost of a funeral is $12,000 and you only got $15,000 in insurance, you can't split that 1,000 ways. What you want to do is you want to make the primary beneficiary that one person. I don't care if you have 2 kids, 5 kids, or 10 kids. You want to make sure your primary beneficiary is the one person that is the most dependable, and that they're going to do exactly what you ask them, and they're going to handle the business accordingly. You want to make sure you want the most responsible of your children to be the primary beneficiary at all times. Now, if you've got, oodles and oodles of money, if you got $50,000, $100,000, $500,000 on the life insurance, you can put whoever you want down. My name is Dorinda, spelled with an I. Spelled with an E, not with an I. Last name Klink, spelled with a C, not with a K. Feel free to call me for my social security number. Add me too. I have no problem with that, because as owner of the life insurance policy, you can put down anybody you want as your beneficiary. But I digress. So you want to make certain that your primary beneficiary is the one person that you can count on at all times to really go in and handle the business. So get your most reliable child, and then your contingent, make that person the next reliable child. Now, in some cases, the most reliable might be the oldest, and the next reliable may be the youngest. Now, if the youngest is the minor, make sure you got somebody else to piggyback with. Maybe split that contingent with somebody else, so somebody could be there, to kind of walk through some processes. But you got to be certain that you understand what the difference between a primary beneficiary is and a contingent beneficiary, and understand the roles that they play. Let me repeat it. Understand what a primary beneficiary is. Understand what a contingent beneficiary is, and understand the roles that they play. Because if you list it wrong, it can't be corrected. Now, here's the final one. This is number 12, and this is the super bonus. I need y'all to stop arguing over life insurance. Y'all have to stop arguing over life insurance. Stop arguing over money. Okay, I hear too many stories of people fighting over life insurance money. Fighting. Families are being broken up over life insurance money. Let me explain something, and let me set the record straight here. When it comes down to life insurance, and I said it yesterday, I said it again today, the person who owns the policy decides who the beneficiary is and why. So if there's 10 kids and there's only one kid listed as the primary beneficiary, and that person gets to check and they do what they got to take care of, they do what they're supposed to, which is prepare the funeral, prepare the memorial, take care of final expenses at the house, the home, the car, the bills, whatever, breaking leases and so on and so forth. Even if there's a little extra, that person deserves whatever the extra is, because I'll tell you, when you've got family, you can have 10 kids. I guarantee you, most of them ain't gonna do a thing when it comes down to that funeral. Most will do nothing. They'll sit on their butt and they'll act like, hey, this wasn't my mama or this wasn't my daddy. I see it happen all the time. It even happened in my own family. It happens every day. So I need you to stop fighting over money, because it's not the brother and it's not the sister. It's mom or dad. They made their decision and they don't have to disclose to you why they chose to do what they did, or why they chose, put a certain person in place. It's not your business why they did what they did. And it doesn't mean that you're the favorite or the least favorite. It just means that they had a plan in place and they executed that plan according to how they felt it best would be done. And that if you ended up with nothing, you just ended up with nothing. It's not that they didn't love you. It's not that you weren't qualified. It's just that mom and dad or whoever it was felt that this person could handle the business and get it done. Now, I'm going to tell you, I had someone tell me the other day, well, I don't have to worry about that with my kids, because I know my kids, they're going to do exactly what I tell them, and they this and they that, and they the third. No. Your kids can do everything you say when you're sitting in front of their face, but I guarantee you, drop $100,000 check in their lap, they're going to do what they want to do. They're not going to say, well, mama said, put new windows in the house. Mama said, gut the basement and rent it out. Mama said buy her a pink hat. About the only thing you gonna get out of that is that pink hat. Other than that, they gonna do what they want to do. And because for one thing, you can't change it because you're not here, you're deceased. So stop thinking that when this person leaves leaves somebody else as a beneficiary and you don't get a cut, don't think it's personal. There was a plan. Mom or dad or grandma or whoever, they had a plan in place and they executed the plan exactly the way they wanted to make it, to execute it. It's nothing personal. It's nothing to argue off of. It's not even your money to fuss over. How dare you? It's not even your money to fuss over. Someone else spent years and years and years working and chose to pull X amount of dollars out of their income every month so that you can have a safe passage and not having to come out of your pocket and pay for a funeral. So it's a shame and an embarrassment to have you fighting over finances that was never yours to fight over. You fighting over money and you breaking up families all because of life insurance. That's sad. That's really sad. And it's unnecessary. But when you start understanding how life insurance works, then you can really understand why certain things are put in place. Each of us, we know our children. If you have children, you know the personality of your children. And depending upon the diversity that's before them, they can change. But for the most part, we know the personalities of our children. My daughter, if I'm broke, she coming through. If I'm hurt and I'm crying, my son is right there. Which one to expect them to wipe my butt if I get old and feeble? I don't know, because honestly, I don't trust either one of them. But to handle business, if I died right now, my daughter will handle the business, and my 13-year-old son will be right there and be like, that's not what mama wants. Mama like this. Mama want that. Because he's all about them details. My daughter's about getting it done, and my son is about the details. So every one of us know how our children is. We know what we know how they operate. We know how they think. So when I ask the question, who do you want to list as your primary beneficiary, it shouldn't be a hesitation. You should automatically be able to say, oh, my son John, oh, my daughter Lisa, oh, my niece Melanie. You ought to be able to automatically say who your beneficiary is because you already know the personalities and the characteristics of those people. You also know the one you don't want listed. If you got a family member or a child that is completely irresponsible with money, or they have a drug addiction or something like that, or an alcohol, problem, you know full well you leave a check in their hand, they gonna be at the liquor store, they gonna be at the drug house, and you gonna be above ground. And this is not a joke. This is serious. I've seen it. And then they leave the rest of the family to figure out how they're gonna bury you, while the other child or whoever it is, they just took the check and ran. Now, I said it was 2 bonuses, and I've given you 2, but I want to drop this last one on you real quickly. So when you put your primary beneficiaries in place, you want to make sure that they understand that once you pass away, you first want to file a claim. We'll talk about this a little more. You want to file a claim. That claim has to have a death certificate with it. It has to, y'all can't see my fingers, but it has to have a death certificate with it. And then what happens is that you can go to the funeral home and you can do an assignment where they can take, they can have a conversation with the insurance company and say, okay, this funeral, according to what the family's wishes are, this family is going to cost X amount of dollars. And they prepare a line item, and they give that to the to the insurance company, and the insurance company drops this check on the funeral home. They take that right off the top. So if you have a $100,000 life insurance policy and the funeral home is charging, let's say, $10,000 or let's say $15,000 because y'all want extra flowers and all of the little programs and all that the little kid at the high school could have did for you for free. But anyway, they tell you it's $15,000. So now the insurance company is going to cut a check for $15,000 right out that insurance. They're going to drop that over at the cemetery or the funeral home. Now there's $85,000 remaining, and that's if you didn't take out, if you didn't borrow against your cash value. We'll talk about that another day too. But there's $85,000 left, and that $85,000 now gets distributed to your beneficiaries, and it's not in one check, it's separate checks. So if you got 10 beneficiaries, they're going to split $85,000 at $8,500 a piece. And this is why I said, if you have $7,000 in life insurance, you have 7 children, don't think you're going to have 7 children that's going to cough up their $1,000 check to bury you. Half of them going to be gone in the wind. All right. So you always want to make sure that you got your beneficiaries in order. If you don't understand that, feel free to go back through this video. I'm going to keep it posted. Also, feel free to put some questions. If you got questions, put it in the comment box. If you feel they're private, you want to talk about a personal situation, feel free to inbox me. I have no problem. I'll respond to you as soon as possible. Again, I just want to make sure that people are fully educated on life insurance, because right now, far too many of us don't have life insurance, and we don't have life insurance mostly not because of fear, but because of lack of education. And the more we know, the more we do better, right? So with that being said, again, it's late. I'm glad you guys stayed up with me. I appreciate you. Love you as always. Stay sweet, stay safe. Talk to you soon.